Alex Carter stood in front of the bathroom mirror in his small apartment, adjusting his tie for the third time. His hands shook slightly as he looked at his reflection. Today was the day he would leave Earth forever, or at least for the next 6 months. The letter from the Galactic Federation still sat on his kitchen table, even though he had read it 100 times already. He was going to space. Not just any place in space, but to a school on an alien world where he would study with creatures from other planets. Alex had spent his whole life studying fish and other sea animals in Earth's oceans. He worked at Woods Hole, a famous place where scientists studied the sea. He loved his job, but he never thought aliens would care about what he did. 3 years ago, everything changed when the first alien ships appeared over major cities around the world. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Federation, and they said they wanted to be friends with humans. After lots of meetings and talks, they started sharing knowledge. The aliens taught humans about space travel and energy, while humans shared information about Earth. Now there was an exchange program. Scientists from Earth could go study with alien scientists, and alien scientists could come to Earth. Alex was chosen to represent Earth's ocean science. Out of thousands of scientists who applied, only 12 humans were selected. Alex still could not believe he was one of them. He grabbed his suitcase and the special device the aliens gave him. It looked like a small metal box with lights on. The aliens called it a translator, and it would help him understand and speak to different alien species. Alex had practiced with it for weeks, but he was still nervous about using it with real aliens. The drive to the launch site took 2 hours. Alex sat in the back of a government car, watching familiar Earth scenery pass by his window. Trees, buildings, people walking their dogs. Everything looked so normal. In a few hours, he would be looking at alien trees and alien buildings and maybe alien pets. At the launch site, Alex met Dr. Lisa Murphy, the only other marine biologist in the program. She was older than Alex and had written many books about deep-sea creatures. She seemed much calmer than Alex felt. "First time leaving the planet?" Lisa asked with a smile. "Is it that obvious?" Alex replied, wiping sweat from his forehead. "You look like I felt when I went on my first deep-sea dive," she said, excited and terrified at the same time. The alien ship was nothing like the rockets humans used. It was smooth and round, like a giant pearl. There were no flames or loud noises when it took off. Alex felt a slight push against his seat, and then they were flying through space. The trip to Aquinas Prime took 3 days. Alex spent most of the time looking out the window at stars and planets he had never seen before. The alien pilot, who looked like a tall blue person with gills on. Their neck was very friendly. They told Alex about the school and the other students he would meet. "Many different species come to our academy," the pilot said through Alex's translator. "Some breathe water, some breathe gas, some do not breathe at all. You will find it very interesting." When they arrived at Aquinas Prime, Alex pressed his face against the window. The planet was covered in water, with floating cities connected by long bridges. The water was not blue like Earth's oceans, but a beautiful green color that seemed to glow. The academy was built on a large floating platform in the middle of the ocean. It looked like a combination of a university and an aquarium. There were tall buildings with glass walls, and Alex could see water and sea creatures swimming inside some of them. A graceful alien met them at the landing platform. She was tall and moved like she was swimming, even though she was walking on dry ground. Her skin had patterns that changed color like a fish. She introduced herself as reef singer Vashital, the director of the academy. "Welcome, human scientists," she said in a voice that sounded like singing. "We are very excited to learn about your planet's ocean life." Alex followed Vashtal through the academy buildings. Everywhere he looked, he saw amazing things. There were pools of different colored liquids where strange creatures swam. Some areas had no gravity, and alien students floated in the air while they studied. In one room, Alex saw what looked like living crystals growing on the walls. "Your room is here?" Vashtal said, stopping at a door. "Tomorrow you will meet your fellow students and begin classes." Alex's room was simple but comfortable. It had a bed, a desk, and a large window that looked out over the green ocean. As he unpacked his clothes, Alex thought about his presentation. He had brought videos and pictures of Earth's deep-sea creatures. He had studied them his whole career. But now he wondered if they would seem boring compared to the amazing alien life he was already seeing. That night, Alex could not sleep. He lay in bed listening to the sounds of the alien ocean through his window. The water made different sounds than Earth's oceans. There were musical tones and rhythms he had never heard before. Sometimes he heard what sounded like singing in the distance. Alex thought about his favorite deep-sea creature, the Gulper Eel. It lived in the darkest parts of Earth's oceans and could do something that amazed Alex every time he saw it. The eel could open its mouth so wide that it could swallow fish much larger than itself. Alex had always thought this was incredible, but he wondered if the aliens would think it was interesting. He finally fell asleep to the sound of alien waves against the Academy's walls, dreaming of the presentation he would give and hoping he would not embarrass Earth or himself in front of beings from across the galaxy. Alex woke up to the sound of gentle chimes coming from his translator device. It was morning on Aquinas Prime, though the green sun looked nothing like the yellow sun he was used to on Earth. He got dressed quickly and made his way to the main classroom building. The classroom was unlike anything Alex had ever seen. It was a large dome filled with water, but somehow Alex could breathe normally inside it. Other students sat in chairs that floated at different levels throughout the space. Some students were in the water, while others sat on floating platforms. Alex counted 12 different types of alien students. There were the tall blue ones like the pilot who brought him here. There were small creatures that looked like living crystals, changing colors as they moved. Some students appeared to be made of gas or mist, floating in contained suits. Others looked like plants with faces, their leaves moving slowly as they breathed. Reef singer Vashatal floated in the center of the room, her colorful skin patterns shifting as she spoke. "Today we begin our presentations about deep-sea life from your homeworlds," she announced. "Each of you will share the most amazing creatures from your planet's deepest waters." A crystalline student named Shardlight Keth went first. The crystal, being projected images of their ice moon world, where creatures lived in liquid methane oceans under miles of frozen surface. The creatures they showed looked like living gems, feeding on radiation and growing to enormous sizes. They moved through the methane like dancing lights, creating beautiful patterns as they hunted. These beings live at temperatures that would freeze most matter solid, Shardlight Keth explained. They reproduce by splitting into smaller crystals, each one carrying the memories of their parent. Alex watched in amazement. The creatures were beautiful and seemed to defy the laws of physics he knew. How could anything live in such cold conditions? Next came a gaseous student called Wind Dancer Neff. Their world had no solid surface at all, just layers of different gases. The deep-sea creatures there were like flying jellyfish made of living storm clouds. They flew through gas oceans, creating lightning as they moved and feeding on electrical energy. "Our deepest swimmers dive through gas so thick it becomes liquid," Wind Dancer Neff said. "They can grow larger than your Earth cities and live for thousands of years." The presentations continued. Each alien species showed creatures more amazing than the last. There were beings that lived in acid oceans, creatures that swam through liquid metal, and animals that existed in multiple dimensions at once. Some of the deep sea life didn't even need water. They lived in seas of pure energy or liquid light. Alex began to feel smaller and smaller in his chair. Earth's creatures seemed so ordinary compared to what he was seeing. He looked at Dr. Lisa Murphy, who sat a few seats away. She gave him an encouraging smile, but Alex could see she was feeling the same way. When it was almost Alex's turn, he watched the last few presentations with growing worry. A plant-like student showed creatures that grew like coral, but could think and solve problems. Another student displayed animals that could change their entire body structure, becoming completely different creatures when they needed to hunt or hide. Finally, reef singer Vashatal called Alex's name. He stood up slowly, his legs feeling weak. His floating chair moved to the center of the room and he activated his presentation device. "I am Alex Carter from Earth," he began, his voice shaking slightly. "Earth is a planet covered mostly by water, like Aquinas Prime. but our water is blue and contains salt. He showed images of Earth's oceans. The blue water looked pale and simple compared to the colorful, glowing seas the other students had shown. Alex could see some of the alien students' attention starting to wander. Our oceans are about 11 kilometers deep at the deepest point, Alex continued. The pressure down there is about 1,000 times stronger than at the surface. One of the crystalline students, who had been glowing brightly during the earlier presentations, began to dim. Alex realized this was probably their way of losing interest, like a human yawning. Alex showed pictures of jellyfish with lights on their bodies. These creatures make their own light in the darkness, he explained. The alien students looked politely interested, but Alex could tell they were not impressed. After seeing creatures made of living lightning, glowing jellyfish seemed very ordinary. Next, Alex showed the giant tube worms that lived around underwater hot springs. These animals have no mouth and no stomach, he said. They get their food from tiny bacteria that live inside their bodies. This got a little more attention, but Alex could see it was still not very exciting compared to creatures that fed on pure energy or radiation. He moved on to the giant squid, Earth's largest deep-sea predator. This animal can grow to be 13 meters long, Alex said, showing videos of the massive creature with its long tentacles and huge eyes. Tidewalker Mordun, one of the amphibious students, raised a webbed hand. How does it hunt in such low pressure, they asked. Our world's hunters must survive pressure that would crush solid metal. Alex felt his face turn red. Earth's deepest pressure was nothing compared to what these aliens were used to. Well, it uses its tentacles to grab prey and... he started to say, but he could tell his answer sounded weak. More questions came from the alien students, and each one made Alex realize how limited Earth's oceans were. The temperature ranges were narrow, the pressure was low, and the chemistry was simple. Earth's deep sea was like a shallow pond compared to the extreme environments these other worlds had. Alex looked at his remaining slides. He had planned to show several more Earth creatures, but they all seemed so boring now. The vampire squid, the anglerfish, the deep-sea octopus. They all seemed like simple animals compared to the incredible beings the aliens had shared. He was losing his audience completely. The crystalline students had dimmed to almost black. The gaseous ones were dispersing in their suits, a sign they were bored. Even reef singer Vashtal's skin patterns had stopped changing, showing she was no longer interested. Alex felt like he was failing, not just himself, but all of Earth. He had one more creature to show, one that he had saved for last because it was his personal favorite. He had planned to spend just a few minutes on it, but now it was his only hope of getting the aliens interested again. He took a deep breath and pulled up his final presentation. There is one more creature I want to show you, Alex said, his voice getting stronger. It's called the Gulper Eel, and it lives in Earth's deepest waters. Alex pulled up the first image of the Gulper Eel on his display screen. The creature looked like a long, thin fish with a pointed tail and a relatively normal head. It was dark brown and about as long as Alex's arm. Compared to the amazing alien creatures that had been shown earlier, it looked very ordinary. This is Eurypharynx pelechinoides, Alex said, trying to keep his voice steady. We call it the Gulper Eel, and it lives about 3,000 meters below the surface of our oceans. The alien students looked at the image with mild curiosity. Alex could see they were being polite, but the creature looked like just another simple fish to them. After seeing beings made of living crystal and creatures that swam through liquid metal, a brown eel was not very exciting. Shardlight Keth, the crystalline student, brightened slightly. It appears to be a standard elongated swimmer, they observed. Does it have any special abilities for hunting in your low-pressure environment? Alex smiled for the first time since his presentation began. Actually, yes. That's what makes this creature so special. He clicked to the next image, which showed the eel with its mouth closed. This is how the Gulper eel normally looks when it's swimming around. The alien student studied the image. The eel's mouth appeared normal-sized, maybe a little large, for its head, but nothing unusual. Wind dancer Neff, the gaseous student, made a sound that Alex's translator interpreted as mild interest. Now, Alex said, clicking to the next slide, This is what happens when the Gulper eel finds food. The new image showed the same creature, but something was terribly wrong with it. The eel's mouth had opened to an impossible size. Its jaw had stretched so wide that the mouth was bigger than the rest of the eel's entire body. The throat had expanded into a huge bag that looked like it could hold several fish. The classroom became quieter. Alex noticed that reef singer Vashatal had stopped, moving entirely, floating motionless in the water. Her skin patterns had frozen in place. The Gulper eel can open its mouth to 4 times the width of its body, Alex explained, clicking through more images that showed the transformation step by step. Its jaw bones actually separate from each other. The bones don't break, they just disconnect so the mouth can open wider. Tidewalker Morden leaned forward in their floating chair. The bone structure disconnects? How does the creature maintain structural integrity? That's the amazing part, Alex said, getting excited now. The eel's entire throat turns into a giant stretchy bag. The jaw bones float freely in the tissue, not connected to anything. The whole front half of the fish becomes like a balloon. Alex showed a video of a Gulper eel catching food. The creature swam slowly through the dark water looking normal. Then suddenly its mouth exploded outward like an umbrella opening. In one quick motion, it swallowed a fish that was clearly longer than the eel's entire body had been just seconds before. Several alien students made sounds of surprise. The crystalline beings began to dim and brighten rapidly, which Alex had learned was their equivalent of being nervous. But how does it swim with such a large meal inside? Asked one of the plant-like students, their leaves trembling. Alex clicked to an anatomical diagram. The eel's stomach and other organs can move around inside its body. When it swallows something big, everything else just squishes out of the way. The heart, liver, and intestines all get pushed to wherever they fit. The classroom was now completely silent except for the gentle sounds of water moving around them. Alex could see he had everyone's full attention, but their expressions were not what he had expected. Instead of amazement or admiration, the alien faces showed something that looked like concern. The internal organs relocate themselves? Reef singer, Vashatal asked slowly. While the creature is still alive? Oh yes, Alex said enthusiastically. And the best part is that the eel can still hunt and swim normally even with a huge fish inside it. The meal gets digested slowly over several days, and during that time the eel looks like a snake that swallowed a basketball. Alex showed more videos of Gulper eels swimming with bulging stomachs, their bodies grotesquely stretched around partially digested prey. In one video, an eel with a fish inside its throat caught and ate another smaller fish, adding it to the already crowded space in its body. Sometimes they eat things so big that the prey's tail sticks out of the eel's mouth for hours, Alex continued. The eel just swims around with a fishtail hanging out of its face until the meal gets digested enough to fit completely inside. The gaseous student wind dancer Neff had begun to disperse slightly in their containment suit, which Alex had learned was a sign of distress in their species. One of the smaller crystalline students had gone completely dark. Dr. Ben Wright, A.D., human xenobiologist who was observing the exchange program, had been sitting quietly in the back of the classroom. He began to lean forward in his chair, studying the alien reactions with growing interest. Alex clicked to his final set of images, showing X-ray pictures of Gulper eels with meals inside them. The images clearly showed how the creature's skeleton had been pushed into impossible positions to accommodate the food. Ribs were bent at odd angles, the spine was curved in an S shape, and organs were squeezed into tiny spaces between the meal and the body wall. The really incredible thing, Alex said, is that this doesn't hurt the eel at all. This is just how they normally eat. They evolved to turn their own bodies into temporary storage containers. Alex looked around the room, expecting to see wonder and fascination on the alien faces. Instead, he saw something he couldn't quite identify. The alien students were staring at his images with expressions that seemed almost horrified. Shardlight Keth spoke first, their crystal body flickering with rapid color changes. The creature voluntarily dislocates its own skeleton and compresses its vital organs while remaining conscious and active? Well, yes, Alex said, suddenly uncertain. I mean, that's just how they hunt. It's perfectly normal for them. The silence that followed was deeper than any Alex had experienced in the classroom. Even the gentle sounds of water seemed to have stopped. Alex began to realize that maybe what seemed normal and amazing to him was being seen very differently by minds that had evolved on other worlds. He looked at Dr. Murphy, who was staring back at him with wide eyes. She seemed to be understanding, something that Alex was just beginning to grasp. Whatever was happening in this classroom, it was bigger than just a presentation about deep-sea creatures. Alex stood in the center of the floating classroom, waiting for someone to say something. The silence stretched on and on. He had finished explaining how the Gulper Eel could reshape its entire body to eat prey twice its size. And now the alien. Students were just staring at him. Finally, Tidewalker Morden broke the silence. Their webbed hands were gripping their chair so tightly that Alex could see their knuckles turning white. "This creature," they said slowly. "It does this willingly. It chooses to destroy its own body structure?" "Well, it's not destroying anything," Alex said, confused by the question. "It's just eating. The eel is perfectly healthy. This is how all Gulper eels feed." "All of them?" whispered one of the plant-like students. Their leaves had stopped moving entirely, hanging limp like they were sick. "Yes, every single one," Alex replied. "They've been doing this for millions of years. We have fossil evidence that shows their ancestors ate the same way." Wind Dancer Neff made a sound that Alex's translator couldn't properly convert. It came out as static mixed with what sounded like screaming. The gaseous being's containment suit was fluctuating wildly as they tried to maintain their shape. Alex looked around the room and realized that every single alien student looked disturbed. The crystalline students had gone so dark they looked like black rocks. The blue-skinned aquatic students were making low moaning sounds. Even the energy-based beings in the corner had dimmed to almost nothing. Reef singer Vashital finally moved, but her usually graceful swimming motion was jerky and unsteady. "Alex Carter of Earth," she said, her voice shaking so much that the translator was having trouble keeping up. "Are you telling us that your creatures regularly disassemble themselves for food?" "They don't disassemble," Alex said, starting to feel defensive. "They're incredibly flexible. It's actually a brilliant adaptation. Instead of being limited to eating small prey like most fish, the Gulper eel can take advantage of any food source it finds." Dr. Lisa Murphy raised her hand slightly. Alex could see she was trying to help him, but she looked worried. "Perhaps we should explain that this is just one unusual species," she suggested. But Alex was feeling excited now. The aliens were finally paying attention to Earth's creatures. "Actually, the Gulper eel isn't that unusual," he said. "Lots of Earth animals do similar things. If the classroom had been quiet before, now it became absolutely silent." Alex could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. "Other creatures do this too?" Shardlight Keth asked, their crystal body flickering between dark and light rapidly. "Oh yes," Alex said enthusiastically. "Snakes can dislocate their jaws and swallow prey much larger than their heads. Some of our deep-sea fish can expand their stomachs to hold meals 10 times their normal body size. And hagfish can tie themselves in knots and slide out of their own skin when predators attack them." Several alien students made choking sounds. One of the smaller aquatic beings actually left the classroom, swimming quickly toward the exit. Alex continued, not noticing the growing distress around him. "Then there are sea cucumbers. When they're threatened, they shoot their internal organs out of their bodies as a distraction, then grow new ones. And some starfish can break off their own arms on purpose, and each arm grows into a whole new starfish." Tidewalker Morden was now making a continuous low whining sound. "They voluntarily remove their own body parts?" "It's called autotomy," Alex said proudly. "Lots of Earth animals can do it. Lizards drop their tails, crabs can detach their claws, some worms can split themselves in half. It's actually a very successful survival strategy." Dr. Ben Wright, who had been watching the alien reactions carefully, stood up from his seat in the back. "Alex," he said quietly, "I think you should pause for a moment." But Alex was on a roll now. He felt like he was finally showing the aliens something interesting about Earth. "We also have creatures that can completely regenerate lost body parts. Some can regrow entire heads, others can regrow half their body. There's a type of jellyfish that can reverse its aging process and become young again whenever it wants. The plant-like students were now swaying back and forth like they were in a strong wind, even though the water around them was completely still. Their leaves had turned colors that Alex had never seen before. And then there are the deep-sea creatures that live around volcanic vents, Alex continued. They thrive in water hot enough to melt metal, and some of them eat sulfur and other chemicals that would kill most life forms instantly. Reef singer Vashital made a sound like she was being strangled. Her beautiful color patterns had turned into chaotic swirls of black and red. Your planet's creatures, she gasped. They treat their own bodies as disposable tools? Well, when you put it that way, Alex said, finally starting to understand that something was wrong. I guess, yes. They're very adaptable. Wind Dancer Neff's containment suit was now flashing warning lights as the being inside struggled to maintain any coherent form. Adaptable, they repeated, the word coming out like a curse through the translator. Dr. Wright walked up to Alex and put a gentle hand on his shoulder. Alex, I think we need to take a step back and consider how our biology might seem to species that evolved differently. Alex looked around the classroom again. Every alien face showed the same expression, and he was finally beginning to recognize what it was. It wasn't amazement or scientific curiosity, it was horror. Pure, undiluted horror. But these are just normal animals, Alex said weakly. They're not scary. They're just efficient. Shardlight Keth stood up slowly, their crystal bodies so dark, it looked like a hole in space. Efficient, they repeated. Yes, terrifyingly efficient. Your creatures have turned biological horror into an art form. Dr. Murphy finally spoke up. Perhaps we should explain that humans don't actually do these things ourselves. We just live alongside creatures that do. Live alongside them? Tidewalker. Morden stared at her in disbelief. You share a planet with creatures that regularly destroy and rebuild their own bodies? And you consider this normal? Alex opened his mouth to explain that Earth's animals weren't really that strange. But then, he stopped. Looking at the alien faces around him, seeing their genuine terror and revulsion, he began to understand something important. What seemed like clever biological solutions to him were cosmic nightmares to beings from other worlds. The silence returned to the classroom, but now Alex understood what it meant. The aliens weren't impressed with Earth's deep sea life. They were horrified by it. And maybe, Alex was starting to realize, they had good reason to be. The silence in the classroom felt heavy, like the deep ocean water that pressed down on the creatures Alex had been describing. He stood in the center of the room, finally understanding that his presentation had gone terribly wrong, but not knowing how to fix it. Reef singer Vashital was the first to speak again. She moved slowly through the water, her color patterns dim and confused. Alex Carter, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. When your Gulper Eel transforms its body in this way, does it experience pain? Alex thought about the question, carefully. No, he said. The eel doesn't have the same kind of nervous system that would make this painful. It's completely natural for them. Natural, repeated Shardlight Keth, their crystal body flickering weakly. This horror is natural on your world. It's not horror, Alex said, but his voice lacked confidence now. It's just adaptation. Evolution found solutions to survival problems. Dr. Ben Wright stepped forward, understanding something that Alex was still struggling with. May I ask you all a question? He said to the alien students. On your worlds, when your deep-sea creatures face the challenge of finding food, how do they solve this problem? Tidewalker Mordoon answered first. Our deep hunters evolved longer appendages and more sensitive detection organs. They became better at finding prey that matched their body size. Our crystal swimmers developed new forms of energy absorption, added Shardlight Keth. They learned to feed on radiation and thermal emissions instead of requiring physical consumption. Wind Dancer Neff managed to stabilize their form enough to speak. Our gas ocean dwellers evolved cooperative hunting strategies. They worked together, To capture large prey and share it among the group. Dr. Wright nodded thoughtfully. So when faced with the problem of eating prey larger than themselves, your creatures developed external solutions, better tools, new energy sources, social cooperation. Yes, said Reef Singer Vashatal. That is how intelligent evolution works. You improve your relationship with the environment, not this. She gestured at Alex's presentation screen, which still showed images of the grotesquely distended Gulper Eel. Dr. Wright looked at Alex, then back at the alien students. What Alex is trying to tell you is that Earth's evolution took a different path. Instead of developing external solutions, our creatures learned to modify themselves. But the psychological trauma, whispered one of the plant-like students. How do they cope with voluntarily dismantling their own bodies? Alex finally understood the source of their horror. They don't experience psychological trauma, he explained. They don't think about their bodies the way you do. To a Gulper Eel, its body is just a tool that can be reshaped when needed. The alien student stared at him with what Alex now recognized as a mixture of fascination and revulsion. Dr. Lisa Murphy stood up from her seat. Perhaps I can help explain this better, she said. Alex, show them the video of human divers exploring the deep ocean. Alex pulled up footage of human researchers in submersible vehicles, thousands of meters below the surface. The aliens watched as the small craft moved through the crushing darkness, its lights illuminating the strange creatures of Earth's deep sea. Humans cannot survive in our deep oceans, Dr. Murphy explained. We need special vehicles and equipment, but the creatures that live there have modified their own bodies to handle conditions that would instantly kill us. This is the fundamental difference, Dr. Wright added. Your species developed technology and cooperation to overcome environmental challenges. Earth's species developed biological flexibility to an extreme degree. Tidewalker Morden leaned forward, their webbed hands trembling. Are you saying that humans live on a planet where every creature is capable of body horror? We don't call it body horror, Alex said quietly. We call it adaptation. Reef Singer Vashatal's patterns suddenly shifted to colors Alex had never seen before. Wait, she said slowly. If this is normal for your planet's creatures, what about humans? What terrible things can your species do to your own bodies? Alex and the other humans exchanged glances. Dr. Wright spoke carefully. Humans are actually quite limited compared to other Earth species. We can heal from injuries, but we cannot regenerate lost limbs or organs like many of our planet's creatures. We consider ourselves fragile, Dr. Murphy added. We break easily and heal slowly compared to most Earth life. Fragile? Shardlight Keth's crystal body was pulsing with rapid color changes. You are the apex species on a planet of creatures that treat their bodies as disposable tools, and you consider yourselves fragile? Alex thought about this for a moment. Well, yes. Humans need tools and technology to survive. We can't reshape our bodies or regrow lost parts like other Earth animals. Wind Dancer Neff made a sound that the translator converted to something like nervous laughter. So you are telling us that on Earth the intelligent species is actually the least capable of biological horror? I suppose so, Alex said, still not entirely comfortable with calling it horror. The classroom fell silent again, but this time it felt different. The alien students were no longer looking at Alex with revulsion. Instead, they seemed to be thinking deeply about something. Finally, Reef Singer Vashatal spoke. We invited you here to share knowledge about your ocean's beauty and wonder. Instead, you have shown us that your entire planet operates on principles that we find difficult to comprehend. But perhaps, said Tidewalker Morden slowly, this is exactly what we needed to learn. Dr. Wright raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Shardlight. Keth's crystal body began to brighten again. In all our explorations of the galaxy, we have encountered thousands of species on millions of worlds. We have seen incredible diversity in intelligence, technology, and social organization. But, added Wind Dancer Neff, we have never encountered a planet where life itself is so flexible, so willing to sacrifice form for function. Reef singer Vashatal nodded slowly. Your creatures don't just adapt to their environment. They remake themselves to fit any challenge. This is not just evolution, this is biological mastery. Alex looked around the classroom, seeing the alien expressions change from horror to something that might have been respect, mixed with healthy fear. We study the deep ocean creatures of our worlds to understand the limits of life, said one of the plant-like students. But your creatures seem to have no limits at all. Dr. Wright smiled. I think you're beginning to understand why humanity was invited to join the Galactic Federation. It wasn't just because we developed space travel or nuclear energy. It was because you come from a world that redefined what life itself could be, Reef singer Vashtal said, her patterns now showing complex swirls of amazement and concern. Alex finally understood what had happened in his presentation. He hadn't failed to impress the aliens. He had succeeded too well. He had shown them that Earth was not just another planet with interesting ocean life. Earth was a world where biological impossibility was an everyday reality. So, Alex said carefully, should I continue with the rest of my presentation? I still have 17 more species to show you. The entire classroom of alien students spoke, in unison. No. But then Shardlight Keth added, we would like to request copies of all your research files for our military strategists and survival specialists. Alex raised an eyebrow. Military strategists? If we ever encounter truly hostile conditions in the galaxy, Tidewalker Morden explained, we want the humans on our side. Your planet taught you that impossible biology is just another Tuesday. Dr. Wright chuckled. Welcome to Earth, where evolution decided that physics was merely a suggestion. The alien students didn't laugh. They just nodded with the serious expressions of beings who had glimpsed something both wonderful and terrifying, and realized they needed to completely rethink their understanding of what life could accomplish.